Thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks everyone for being here. And thank you, Brian, for coming and joining and sharing some wisdom. Super excited to speak with you today. Yeah, maybe if you could just give us like a bit of an overview for the audience. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you work? And just give us a bit of some context as to who you are. Who is Brian?
Yeah, who's Brian? He's that weird guy with a backpack, always walking around as many places as possible. For just a little bit of background, I started my school career as a computer science major. I switched to marketing as this integration between development and then getting into SEO kind of transitioned my way into marketing, and then I ventured across the pond and got my MBA in Colchester in the UK, and then ventured back to the US, back to the Netherlands. Again, marketing career kind of went from web development and SEO, migrated into overarching marketing strategy. The Netherlands was my opportunity to lead a marketing team for the first time for a startup. Super excited. Ran across the pond to get there and did some really cool things. We got acquired. I moved to another company where I think I sort of really wrapped my head around these beliefs that I have in marketing and demand gen and how we best serve our audience, and then moved back to the US, and I'm continuing to do that. But I'm also I'm trying to do that in the context of how can I best support marketers and demand gen folks um, in this way of thinking that I believe, how we best support our audience, how we develop a more refined sales process, at least the portion that we manage and that handover to either the BDR team or the sales team, depending on where that handoff goes, how you develop that content and everything in between. So really just trying to be a support system for marketers and marketers like me who started maybe on the agency side or didn't have that mentor that really gave you all of this expertise at once and early in your career. How can I pass that on to as many folks as possible? Brought in a team of folks that believe what I believe and at Storylab, and we are trying to spread our support as far and wide as possible.
That's awesome. So, international marketer with a background in computer science, which is I feel like super rare, but also a really interesting combination of skill sets, and background with SEO, demand generation. So, it led you all the way to where you are today with Storylabs. So, can you just give us an overview as to what is Storylabs, what's your mission, and how are you executing upon that?
Yeah, and our mission is simple, right? We're here to support marketers in meeting their customers where they are. Um, and so what we do, we started out with AI tools, utilizing basic connecting with OpenAI and using basic content generation tools. And then we started expanding on that into entire campaign generators. So you deliver us a little bit of content, we build out an entire campaign for you. So what that looks like from ads, blog posts, um, emails, the whole gambit we're trying to support, and how we make that easier. And then we blended that in with storytelling. We really believe that engaging your audience in the right way and telling a compelling story allows you to do that in the most efficient way. So how do we tell those great stories that make folks want to connect with us and eventually become customers and evangelists of what we're doing? And then we layered on our small community as well, trying to further support through interaction in the community, through some one-on-one support, and just and thinking beyond that. How do we, what's next, and how we can best support um, our audience. So that's us.
So tell me about the transition from creating content, whether it be for SEO, marketing material, positioning, sales enablement, etc. From the kind of the old way and then the new way that you've been doing it more recently, where it's powered through AI. What are the kind of key differences in the processes that you've built to be able to make that happen? And I'd love to learn a little bit more about the pros and cons of that. Where have the challenges been, and where have you seen, real value in that process?
Yeah. So so how we've kind of transitioned first, and then we'll get into the other side, is really building out what our experiences are and what we know are the successes within where we can find successes within marketing, and building that into our prompts and building that into the overarching system so that our version of AI becomes almost an extension of our experience. So you're getting our marketing experience in the output that's being created. And where I see the most value is kind of moving beyond it is the understanding that AI isn't some fix a dent and forget it, right? Like you don't just take that output and scale your content through just generic output from the AI. It's meant to be a support tool. We see it as a lot of laying the foundation of what you're trying to do, and really speeding up that process from blank page to V1. And then how do we iterate on that and improve the content based on, again, our specific needs, based on our business, our experience, our narrative and direction. How do we tailor that content to best fit and then release it? You see a lot of times that, again, folks try to scale content by just throwing in a prompt, taking that content, putting it online, and you're getting all of this generic content that isn't tailored to your audience, that isn't tailored to your business, and so we ideally want to prevent that and support you in moving from that V1 into something that is valuable for your audience and valuable for your business overall.
So with the with Storylabs itself, how would you describe the product aspect of it? Is it a platform that has templates where you can enter in your details and create, content itself? Is it a slightly different process? What more concretely, what is the actual product, and how does that get you from generic content to something that's really high value and unique in quality?
Yeah, so we can only provide part of that high value for you and your business, right? We are continuing to improve by adding in additional inputs for your from your business. So understanding your value prop, your positioning, and being able to ingest that to deliver closer to ideal value content, right? So we take those inputs or a generic input, and we, based on our marketing knowledge, we tailor the content specifically to what you're trying to deliver, whether that's an ad, blog post, so on and so forth. We provide that marketing expertise in combined with your business, but that still will need to be edited and improved by you, as you know your business better than anyone else. And to tailor it to your specific audience, it needs to be improved. But we take inputs, we take your knowledge in combination with ours to deliver outputs.
Super interesting. Have you had much of a an experience with where does the kind of line between AI versus human judgment, where does that line get crossed, and where does is better on the human judgment side versus where is the most value in having AI execute something? And I can give more context to the question if helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Please.
So for example, we've seen a lot of people using pre-AI. They'll create content and blog posts, and they'll often, if they don't have the marketing skills in-house, they'll try and outsource that somehow. And there's like now there's kind of, I guess, two ways. There's like generic AI content platforms, which can produce like lots of content, tend to be like lower quality because, to your point, they don't have all these abilities to ingest information about the company or really tailor something. And then the other option is to outsource that to a writer, maybe overseas, and you could pay, I don't know, anything $200 to 2.5 grand for like a blog post, depending on the quality and so on and so forth. And a lot of the times, from what I hear from marketers, is that they're still getting back a piece which is 60 to 80% of the way there, even with a human on the other end actually writing it. And that's, you might get 60% without someone with subject matter expertise, and maybe you get to 80% with subject matter expertise. But there's always still this element of the person in-house has got to do some editing. And so I've seen some kind of benefits of the human judgment around what should we write about, what things should we have included in these articles, and then others actually just not liking the writing style of certain AI models. For example, I've had a lot of reports that Claude actually writes nicer long form content compared to ChatGPT, and so I'd love to understand, where have you seen in your experience, where are people really leaning on AI versus, okay, actually let's still keep the human judgment there.
Yeah, and I think this opens up another conversation for me in relation to people, right? Because I don't see AI as a replacement for people. I see it as a right in efficiency type of solution, right? We aren't because we still need even someone with expertise. If they're not in our business, right, they may know our category, but they don't know us. They don't know what we're trying to deliver to our prospects, and getting that into someone and having them trying to deliver that to someone, whether it's AI or whether it's a human being, so that they can deliver you something that is 95 to 100% ready to go, is, well, I don't want to say impossible, but I haven't seen it yet. Or we still need to be able to take that content back wherever it comes from, and make the proper edits so that it fits our business, it fits our and what we are trying to solve for. So while there is this improvement that we get, right? This speed of version 1 that I call it, you get that regardless of what you're paying. You're going to have to do some type of work, whether you're at 60, whether you're at 80, you're going to have to do work on the back end. So what does that look like for you and your business? Do you have the bandwidth to handle the 60% internally? Or do you need to get to that 80% so that you're able to get the content out at the pace at which you need to?
It's really interesting. I feel that there's this kind of uh, perfection paralysis that happens when there's a new transformative technology that people aren't, they've never seen before. Um, for example, if you go back to when the computer first came out, or you had a Microsoft Word, you could now write something on a computer versus on paper. And then it'd be, well, I can't do this on the computer and I can't do that on the computer. And these things are all completely valid. And it's not necessarily about trying to do exactly what you did before, but it's the changing of the behavior. It's like with Web 1 to Web 2. The first version of Web 1 was, okay, let's just do everything that existed in the kind of non-digital world and put it on the internet. And that just was,
Yes.
here's a newspaper, now it's on the internet. And it was only with Web 2 where, okay, now there's this new technology, we can create products and services that were just feasibly, sorry, not possible before, thinking about like Uber and how that interacts. And it's interesting with AI, some of the initial kind of reactions to it when someone's using it for the first time is, oh, this doesn't create a blog post or a piece of content in exactly the way that I would, or a writer. And I think that kind of misses the mark a little bit. I'd love to get your perception of it, because if you can get 60 to 80% of the way there with something, that's a huge time saving. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, 100% or zero. And so it's when you look at all the processes within inside the content creation or marketing department, where are these other areas where 10%, 20% sort of time saving is huge, let alone 60%, 80%.
Right. So I mean, there are a lot of directions there, but yes, but prior to AI, I would tell my teams all the time, like, uh, we don't want that that perfection paralysis, as you called it, right? So let's get 80% out. Let's iterate on that thing as we go, and we can improve that to get it exactly where it needs to be. Right now 80% is probably a little bit low, but that is just the number that that I would use, right? Let's just get this thing out. Let's not perfect get in the let's not let perfect get in the way of good, right? So let's get this thing out that we think is good, and we'll iterate and improve. And then beyond that, continuing to look for and adapt. And I was just having a discussion about how we could support product marketing in relation to AI, and how AI can support us in doing some of this analysis on the product marketing side. So really just trying to still being early on and trying to understand all of the places beyond content, right? Look, data analysis um, and prospect and customer analysis, and how can we really find all of the ways that we can utilize. And that's something that's still in the works for us, but in early conversations. But again, how can we continue to figure out how to support the entire gambit? Because we can get it's there. We just have to figure out how that fits in so that we can continue to, if again, we can get V1 and V2 done for product marketers as well, right? The time savings becomes huge. It surpasses that 10% and gets into 20 and 30 and 40%. And if we can save all of that time in developing some of these assets and directions for us in product marketing and content, right? The what can be created, what can we produce as a team if we can have that time savings on the things that we're doing now? Because we kind of get stuck in these circles of the things that we have to do, and it becomes difficult to expand beyond that and see what is next. What does the next version of this thing look like for us? Because a lot of us are just trying to survive the day. Let's just get this piece of content out, right? Spend this week developing this asset or this ideal customer profile. So being able to have that time to think beyond that is going to become super, super valuable for our marketers.
So let's talk a little bit about that. We've kind of seen the V1 of AI powered marketing really come into the world of content creation and content generation, repurposing. This has probably been the most that I've seen marketing departments adopt AI in this context.
Right.
What are the other ways that you are starting to see, okay, either people are adopting AI for X, or these are the pathways that we could start exploring that could be really changing the way marketing functions operate?
Yeah, and I think going back to that product marketing, I think that is the next realm for folks. And because that becomes very difficult a lot, and especially in the startup world, right? A lot of folks don't have a PMM. So what is that? How can we then begin to support businesses without a true PMM, or be able to make it really, really efficient for a product marketer to, and excuse me, PMM, product marketing manager, and just generally the term used to define that category. But as we see, looking at ideal profile, looking at the best industry to tackle, right? What are the efficiencies there? Being able to put in weighting of our check marks of what makes a valuable industry or persona to go after. All of these things being able to support speed to market, and now handing that over to our content folks to be able to develop content tailored to those industries or verticals, if you will, and our personas. That is just as we've started to have these conversations and refine what this try to define and refine what this looks like. I think that that is just going to be, as we, again, input our own data, and have AI support us in providing feedback and narrative. And again, this is something that also, right, we can't just take what is the output and as gospel, but we can get a lot of the first and second layers of our work done, and then be able to inspect, right? Inspect what you expect, and be able to iterate on that thing and deliver great content to your content folks.
I've seen some interesting like developments in the way people are thinking about data and collecting data in a marketing context. And I think when we start going into product marketing, that's really interesting because there's a lot of product marketing which is original thought. It's something that doesn't necessarily exist on the internet, which is where these models have been trained in the public domain, because there's a ton of information on the customers that you're serving, the maybe target markets that you're going after. There's a ton of internal conversations and insights to be able to extract information for, none of which is currently exposed to these models. And
Right.
so for people to be able to kind of evolve into that next phase of, okay, how do we create this really crisp when I say content, I don't mean from just like a blog post or these sorts of content, but copywriting for the website, landing pages, hyper personalization. A big part of it is probably not even like the model like performance right now. The model performance is kind of there. It can do the great stuff. It's really how do you ingest this data and information from your other resources. And you know, the rise of the data warehouse has been a trend that's been happening, but I wouldn't say it's fully happened. I'd say, you know, 1% there. Even people that have a data warehouse like aren't really using it. And it's probably because it's really hard to actually make sense of all that data. Now we have this powerful tool, and I think those companies who can ingest tons of original kind of first party data on their customers can then do things like hyper personalization. Every time someone comes to your website, you know exactly who they are, why they signed up, what they're looking for. You could tailor your entire website probably to this one person, and conversion rates maybe explode. I'm really excited for that kind of next progression, and I don't know how far away we are from that, but I think that's going to be extremely exciting.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think we're too far away from that hyper personalization, and I think that with that data as well, right? With all of this data, it starts to help your entire sales process and supporting. Hey, right, as it's ingesting that data, as it's reviewing that data around your internal data, around your personas, around your win rates, right? Then you can start to this can deliver earlier indicators of pivots that may be necessary, of verticals that you may need to expand on, and really support things that we are already doing now, but in a different lens and in a different light. So definitely.
So let's sort of switch gears a little bit. I'd love to know your take on what are the types of skills and skill sets that people need to start acquiring to stay relevant and competitive and ahead of the game in this new, you know, this new kind of phase of the marketing function.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that everything that somebody is going to need is readily available at the moment, right? But I do think that understanding, having this basic understanding of AI, what it's serving, prompt writing, I think is super important because right, you think that you can just when you're utilizing a tool like even Chat GPT, right? And you punch in a few lines, but really a prompt can get so robust that it's pages long, right? To really dial in what you need to do. So understanding how you can trigger the AI via these prompts, I think is probably number one right now. And then I think as we move along, and you probably know a lot more, so I'd love to hear your input on that as well. But I think where folks need to be. I'm not even sure that we are super clear on that just yet.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I think the prompt writing is always going to be something that's really important. There is this kind of debate in the world at the moment where is prompting going to go away? And I think there's a terminal kind of endpoint of where there's always going to be some degree of prompting.
Right.
It's just, what has this uh, development with ChatGPT really unlocked? It's basically we've had to understand how computers talk, and we had to learn their language. And now it's been reversed where they now understand our language and we can just command, control of computers in a certain way. That's the biggest kind of switch there. However, we also have weaknesses as humans, which is some of us suck at communicating, me included. And even when you're working with a colleague or an intern or a freelancer, you still have to be able to communicate clearly and concisely and accurately what you want to be able to achieve to get the best results. And it's often the way we communicate that's going to dictate the output. So no matter how good prompting kind of gets, we don't, for example, latest GPT-4 versus 3.5, you would have to in 3.5 very clearly outline step by step. I want you to do this mathematics formula. First do this, then do this, then do that. Whereas GPT-4 will use the logic, and so the prompting is easier, but you still kind of need to explain it. So I think prompting is one of those skills that everyone's going to have to get used to, or at least have a basic understanding as to how these models work.
Right.
So that would probably be like the first one. Outside of that, it's really how does what are the limitations and the strengths of each of these types of models. Going back to the point right at the beginning of people, the perfection paralysis. I think once we have a better understanding as to what can be done, what can be achieved, and what are the limitations, I think it'll actually get a lot more adoption. And that we probably should be more upfront and be like, this is the limitation. This can hallucinate. This can do this. And now
Mm.
let's figure out ways to overcome that and then really get productive.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Yeah, and the hallucination thing, right? And that's I think that's where it's really important to, as we said, right, to spot check, to review and edit anything that's coming out of there, and use your own knowledge, right? And I think there is this balance of how far, what are those limitations, and how much value does the human element of nuance that we see, how much of that is going to be ingested there, and how much do we still need to put into it after?
We've got a question from Kunal here. I don't know if you want to come off of mute and ask your question. We'd love to hear you.
Hey Brian, you thanks a lot for like explaining on the marketing and how you're helping tech companies. I I have a background in clean tech. I do sales marketing in the past, been a consultant in the same space.
Awesome.
I in the December I was interviewing with somebody for a product marketing role. And from your point of view, what would be the most important skills would be needed right now to get in the role, somebody who doesn't actually come from a marketing background but come more from a consulting background?
I Well, I think it's, if you don't have product marketing experience right now in this moment, it's really difficult to get in. Um, at least from what I'm hearing in hiring from my peers, it's very difficult. But I would say that finding this entry level position that will allow you to learn and is the key, right? Where is the entry level position that you can find? So starting with that, but the skill set is going to be around understanding the business, what you're trying to solve. So this product marketing to me is always this sort of intersection of your business and your business objectives, your customers' needs, and I'm losing my words. Excuse me. But let's just start with those two, right? So understanding that customer deeply, understanding your business objectives, and where do those things meet? How can you best serve that customer and still meet the business needs? That will allow you to do things like create in ICP, because you understand the businesses that you can best serve. And by understanding that customer, you can tailor the content that you are creating, or you are setting up the narratives that you are creating, so that the content then can be created later on. So that element of deeply understanding your customer, deeply understanding your business, I think it's super important. So I would say that is first, and then understanding how to create those assets that are needed. What is the positioning? What is your value prop? All of those things then become much, much easier. Everything is downhill once you understand that top level.
And considering if I understand that, what would be my KPI for the role? Can you like turn down like two things like, okay, this is I need to get out of the door 3 months down the having a role or something?
Yeah, KPIs vary widely for product marketing, to the tune of going from just delivering these top level assets that are needed. And I love Alfie to jump in. I see a smile there, all the way to driving revenue, the impact on revenue, and really everything in between. So I I hesitate to give one specific KPI that you'd be held accountable for.
I think it's probably safe to say that product marketing is one of those roles which means so many different things to different companies and different stages. Product marketing to some companies is just, hey, send out these emails to our customers and an intercom pop up when we launch a new product. And product marketing to other people is a highly strategic thing, very closely sitting with the CEO and the C-suite across the whole company to organize what is the positioning that we have, who are we going after, how does it affect the go-to-market, and there's everything in between. It's a bit like the chief of staff role. I've never understood what a chief of staff does, because it seems to be completely different in every company. And it,
Love that connection.
but I think that's it's a really, KPIs is a really, really tough one. I think even internally in companies, just tracking KPIs for product marketing can be very difficult. But it ultimately comes down to revenue. That's like the thing that everybody is trying to move. Are you able to connect with an audience and get revenue? Um, Thank you very much for your question. We are going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes. So if anybody else has some questions, please do put them in the chat, and then we can take you off mute and ask away. Whilst people are thinking of questions to ask, I had one last one for you, Brian.
Okay.
In this world with AI generated content, whether it's high quality or lower quality, right now there is an opportunity that people, and I think it's a short-term opportunity, and maybe you think differently, but where if you can do programmatic SEO, you can rank for tons of keywords and just bring in traffic through your website. Because at the moment, Google hasn't outright said they're penalizing AI generated content. It may rank slightly lower, but if you have more of it, it's so much easier to do. And there are companies that are definitely getting a ton of traffic through this methodology. There's probably going to be a bifurcation between, mass content that's just going to sweep up traffic, and then this really high quality content that someone is maybe not so going to search for, but that's going to create real value. One, how do you see this opportunity for your clients? Would you say go for it, grab it, take it whilst it's there? Are you pro that, against that? How do you think content is fundamentally going to change with the new tools that we have?
Yeah, well, I would say my personal belief is that, right, I disagree with that strategy uh vehemently. And do I think that there is this short-term success and potentially an avenue for long-term success with that strategy? Totally. I think there's something there, and I don't necessarily know that Google and anyone else is going to be able to penalize and catch this stuff to the degree that we can't do what SEOs have done for years, right? Always find that space that we can crawl through, that crack that we can crawl through to still drive volume. But for me personally, I believe that it's less about volume for volume's sake and driving keywords for keywords sake. And it's how can we best support our audience, and how can we drive the content that that is going to engage and support those folks and whatever it is that we're trying to help them do better, right? They're looking for some sort of support when they're searching for these things. So how can we be there when they need us and provide the most value possible? And of course, we want to mesh that, right, with SEO and be able to drive growth in specific avenues. But it's really, to me, it's about how can we deliver the most valuable content, not just the most overall content.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not actually about how it was made. It's about how relevant is it? How much value does it add? And I don't think Google really cares. Is it a marketer inside your like company that's written it, a freelancer, you know, overseas, or AI? It's just, is it getting clicked on? Does it get read? Does it, you know, retain attention? And
Absolutely.
that's the content that's going to make the most.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I don't see any other questions in the chat. If there's anyone else that wants to raise their hand to ask some questions before we go. Otherwise, Brian, where can people find you? What's like a good next step for people if they want to get in contact with you? And yeah, this is your time to plug anything.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not a big plugger, but you can find me and my marketing beliefs, if you will, on LinkedIn. It's just Brian Cohen, and
It's in the chat
there we
there.
are. Mr. B. Cohen is in. Sheila plugged me already, and then Storylab.ai. Our community is there. You can come in. You can try the tools. Provide us feedback. For me, oddly enough, I think we get more questions of support in email from the website than we do within the community itself. So feel free to let us know what you need, how we can better support you via email in our community. Come join us and see how we can help you drive your business. That's it. I'm pretty simple, but again, I have a lot of beliefs on demand gen and how we drive and improve sales processes that I've put out on LinkedIn. Some create controversy, some don't. But I think if we do right by our customers and our people, things will work out the way that they're supposed to.
Well, controversy gets clicks, so we'll leave that on that note.
Right.
Thank you so much, Brian. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone else, for taking the time out and joining. I hope you learned something. This is recorded. We will have the recording up on our website that you can get access to. And yeah, thank you once again. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.